Good morning, students. Welcome back to our class. Today we are going to read chapter number 4, and the name of the chapter is The Ashes That Made Trees Bloom, and it is from your honeycomb book. So, students, we are going to read. So, and with this chapter, we are going to inculcate two Dalmia core values among the students. First is open-mindedness, and the other is happiness. How the poor old couple became rich with happiness, and they lived their life with happiness. And the students will also feel happy by doing good deeds of work. Open-mindedness, the students will open their mind, and they will think that we should have good we should show and we should have good relations with the pet also. That means we should not scold them, we should not tease them, we should give them kindness, and we should be friendly with them. So, students, the name of the chapter is The Ashes That Made Trees Bloom, and the writer is William Elliot Griffiths. It is a Japanese story, and we will be knowing about the Japan culture. So, students, in the good old days of the daimyos are the rich merchants. There lived an old couple whose only pet was a little dog. Having no children, they loved it as though it were a baby. So they loved him as its own child. The old dame is for the lady, made it a cushion of blue crab, a kind of cloth, and at mealtime, Muko is the name of that pet dog, for that was its name, would sit on it as snug. Snug means comfortably and quietly, as any cat. The kind people fed the pet with tibbits. Tibbits is the pieces of fish from their own chopsticks, and all the boiled rice it wanted. Thus treated, the dumb creature loved its protectors like a being with a soul like a human child. That means if the old couple gave him respect and love, similarly the Muku also respected and loved that old couple as its own parents. The old man being a rice farmer, he used to grow rice in his farmer, went daily with hoe or spade. These are the digging tools into the fields, working hard from the morning until O Tento Sema, it is for the sun, had gone down behind the hills. Every day the dog followed him to work, never once harming the white heron. Heron is a kind of bird which is having long neck and long legs, and which used to eat the insects and worms. And heron is mostly found near the water, near the river. So that walked in the footsteps of the old man to pick up the worms, for the old fellow was patient and kind to everything that had life, and often turned up a sod. Sod is it is the soil, it is the ground, it is the upper layer of the soil with having grass on it, on purpose to give food to the birds. So the pet Muko dog used to help the heron in finding out the food for it. One day the dog came running to him, putting his paws against his legs and motioning, is indicating, with his head to some spot behind. The old man at first thought this pet was only playing and did not mind it, but the dog kept on winning. That means he wanted to show something to the old couple, and running to and fro. To and fro is a phrase which means moving here and there for some minutes. Then the old man followed the dog a few yards to a place where the animal began a lively scratching. He was digging, he was scratching the ground, thinking it was possibly a buried bone or bit of fish. The old man struck his hoe in the earth, and when lo means see, a pile of gold gleamed before him. So Muko wanted to show him the treasure. There was a heap of gold over there. Thus, in an hour, the old couple were made rich. The good souls bought a piece of land, made a feast for their friends, and gave plentifully to their poor neighbors. So, as they were very kind, so they gave plentiful money to their poor neighbors also. As for the dog, they petted him till they nearly smothered him with kindness. So they loved him more and more. Now in the same village there lived a wicked old man and his wife, not a bit sensitive and kind. who had always kicked and scolded all dogs whenever any passed their house. So, see, students, this is the world which is full of good and bad persons. So, this old couple were good, kind hearted, as well as, on the other hand, there were wicked old couple also. They were very bad and they never loved the pets. So, hearing of the neighbor's good luck, they cox. Cox means they were pretending, they were showing kindness to that dog into the garden and set before him bits of fish and other dainties. Dainties is the pieces of good food, hoping he would find treasure for them. But the dog, being afraid of the cruel pair, would neither eat nor move. Then they dragged him out of doors. Drag means to force, to pull, taking a spade and hoe with them. No sooner had the dog got near a pine tree growing in the garden than he began to paw and scratch the ground as if a mighty treasure lay beneath. And what was there? He thought, if this dog is scratching the ground, that means here is the treasure. Quick, wife, hand me the spade and hoe, cried the greedy old fool as he danced with joy. Then the covetous is the greedy old fellow with a spade and the old crone with a hoe began to dig. But there was nothing but a dead kitten, the smell of which made them drop their tools and shut their noses. Furious at the dog, the old man kicked and beat him to death. And the old woman finished the work by nearly chopping, means cutting off his head with the sharp hoe. Then they flung him into the hole and heaped the earth over his carcass. Carcass is the dead body. See, that wicked people, the wicked pair, old couple, thought that the dog will also give them some treasure. But when the dog was being afraid, he wanted to run away, so he started scratching the ground. And as soon as they dig the ground, what they found? There was a dead kitten and he was smelling very badly. So, what they did, being very angry, the old man, that wicked man, he beat it. He started beating the dog and he beat him till his death. And afterwards, that wicked lady, she chopped his head and then he put him there only and they put mud over his carcass, over his dead body. The owner of the dog heard of the death of his pet and mourning for him as if he had been his own child. So he was very sad, he became very sad. So he went at night under the pine tree. He set up some bamboo tubes in the ground, such as are used before tombs. Tombs is the where the dead bodies are buried inside, in which he put fresh flowers. Then he laid a cup of water and a tray of food on the grave and burned several costly sticks of incense. He mourned a great while over his pet, calling him with many dear names as if they're alive. That night, the spirit of the dog appeared to him in a dream and said, see, you can see the picture of the pine tree, which is on the screen, and make from it a mortar for your rice pastry and a meal for your bean sauce. So now he's telling you can make a mortar for your rice pastry and a meal for your bean sauce. So the old man chopped down, the chop means to cut, and cut out of the middle of the trunk a section about 2 feet long. With great labor, partly by fire, partly by chisel, he scraped out a hollow place as big as a small bowl. He made a bowl out of them. He then made a long handled hammer of wood, such as it is used for pounding rice, means to smashing. You can see this is the, yes, this is the mortar. So when New Year's time drew near, he wished to make some rice pastry. When the rice was all boiled, Granny put it into the mortar. The old man lifted his hammer to pound, to smash, and the mass into dough, and the blows fell heavy and fast till the pastry was all ready for baking. What they found, suddenly the whole mass turned into a heap of gold coins. Yes, when the old woman took the hand mill and filling with beans began to grind, the old dropped like rain. So gold, all over there was gold. Meanwhile, the envious neighbor peeped in at the window when the boiled beans were being ground. Goody me, cried the old hag, that lady, as she saw each dripping of sauce turning into yellow gold. Until in a few minutes, the tub under the mill was full of shining mass of gold. So the old couple were rich again. The next day, the stingy, tight fisted, bad, wicked neighbor came and borrowed the mortar and magic wheel. They filled one with boiled rice and the other with beans. Then the old man began to pound and the woman to grind. But at the first blow and turn, the pasty and sauce turned into a foul mass of worms. Means instead of gold, what was there? Bad smell and a mass of worms. Still more angry, they chopped the meal into pieces and they burned it. Not long after that, the good old man dreamed again, and the spirit of the dog spoke to him, telling him how the wicked people had burned the meal made from the pine tree. Take the ashes of the meal, sprinkle them on the withered trees, and they will bloom again. Withered, which is having trees which are not green, they have become yellow, they have fallen down. So they will bloom again, said the dog spirit. The old man awoke and went at once to his wicked neighbor's house, where he found the miserable old pair sitting at the edge of their square fireplace because they burned it in the middle of the floor, smoking and spinning. So now, from time to time, they warmed their hands and feet with the blaze for some bits of the meal, while behind them lay a pile of the broken pieces. The good old woman humbly asked for the ashes. Though the covetous couple turned up their noses at him and scolded him as if they were thieves, they let him fill his basket with the ashes. On coming home, the old man took his wife into the garden. So, it being winter, their favorite cherry tree was bare, always bare, because means there were no fruits, there were no leaves. So he sprinkled a pinch of ashes on it, and lo means I told you, see, it fruited blossoms until it became a cloud of pink blooms with perfume there. You can see the picture of, see how that cherry tree have bloomed with flowers and fruits. So the news of this filled the village, and everyone ran to see the wonder. The covetous, the greedy, also heard the story and gathering up the remaining ashes of the meal kept them to make withered trees blossom. The kind old man, hearing that his lord, the daimyo, was to pass along the high road near the village, set out to see him, taking his basket of ashes. As the train approached, in which the daimyo was sitting, he climbed up into an old withered cherry tree that stood by the wayside. Now, in the days of the daimyos, it was the custom when their lord passed by for all the loyal people to shut up their high windows. They used to shut up their windows and they used to just fold their hands and bend down as in praise. They even pasted them with pass with a slip of paper so as not to commit the impertinence of looking down on his lordship. All the people along the road would fall upon their hands and knees and remain flat until the procession passed by. The train drew near. Of one tall, competent march ahead, crying out to the people by the way, get down on your knees, get down on your knees. And everyone kneeled down while the procession was passing. Suddenly, the leader of the band caught sight of the aged man up in the tree. He was about to call out to him in an angry tone, but seeing he was such an old fellow, he pretended not to notice him and passed by. And so he thought that he's very old man, so I have not seen him, he just pretended. So when the daimyo's plankton drew near the old man, taking a pinch of ashes from his basket, scattered it over the tree. In a moment it burst into blossom. The delighted daimyo ordered the train to be stopped and got out to see the wonder. Calling the old man to him, thanked him, and ordered presents of silk robes, spongy cakes, fans, and other rewards to give him. He even invited him to his castle, so the old man went gleefully home, to share his joy with his dear old wife. But when the greedy neighbor heard of it, he took some of the magic ashes and went out to the highway. There he waited until a daimyo's train came along, and instead of kneeling down like the crowd, he climbed a withered cherry tree. And when the daimyo himself was almost directly under him, he threw a handful of ashes over the tree. What happened? Which did not change a particle. The wind blew, and the fine dust in the noses and eyes of the daimyo and his wife. Such sneezing and choking. It spoiled all the pomp and dignity of the procession. The man whose business it was to cry, "Get down on your knees," seized the old fool by the collar, dragged him from the tree, and tumbled him and his ash bucket into the ditch by the road. Then, beating him soundly, he left him for dead. Thus, the wicked old man died in the mud, but the kind friend of the dog dwelt in peace and plenty. And both he and his wife lived to a green, healthy, active, and prosperous old age. So, students, this was the story about the old couple, kind old couple, and the greedy and unkind old couple. So, students, you have to follow the path of the kind old couple. So, students, we will meet in our next class. Till then, stay at your home, stay blessed, stay healthy, stay fit, and thank you. Have a nice day.